Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and welcome back to another video on Awaken Realms Etherfields, a game that I am still enjoying a heck of a lot. I think this game is fantastic. This video, I'm going to be addressing a couple of questions that I got from some of the Dungeon Dive patrons, as well as a couple questions, concerns, things I've seen pop up online on BGG and also on YouTube. We will be digging down into some pretty significant spoilers when we get to the table. And this is just probably going to be on the last question, on question number 6. They are still pretty early game spoilers, and I'm not going to be giving everything away. Just in order to make my point, we kind of have to look at some stuff. And so depending on how you feel about that, you may just want to cut out. But I'll make sure to give plenty of warning. So one of the first things I hear people ask about, some people complain about, it is a concern that I've seen brought up multiple times, and that is replay value of a game like this. And really, that is really up to you. It's going to be up to everybody. If you are like me, like a lot of us who buy a lot of games, replay value really isn't a concern, at least for me. Replay value is kind of the last thing I personally worry about with board games, because truth be told, I rarely play like all of my games to 100% completion. I'm constantly playing new things. I'm going back to old things. Even like story-based games, I rarely play the whole thing. There are games that I have started that I need to go back to, like a lot of games. Etherfields is a game that I really want to finish at least the core campaign because I'm loving it. Will I actually do that? I don't know. I still have it set up. I had Alter Quest set up to do a video. I put Alter Quest away. I immediately got Etherfields set up again. I am playing it, a couple times a week. So I think there's a really good chance that I'm actually going to get through the core campaign of Etherfields, and I will want to play the campaigns that are coming with the stretch goals. So replay value, though, to me is not that big of a deal. Even if it was, I think there is a little bit of replay in this core campaign. As I've gone through the dreams that I've gone through, there are cards that I still have not seen. I know there are some story snippets that I have not read. There are 2 other characters still I have not played. So I could play through the whole game with 2 characters and then maybe play it through again with a second character. Will I know the puzzles? Yes, but if I do that once or twice a year and I keep the game, it's not, again, replay value I think it's there if you don't need every single session or every single playthrough of the game to be completely unique and new. You can still have fun with it, I think. However, I also go back to my answer to people who complain about app-driven games not being able to be played in 20 years. It's like you have a nice bottle of scotch or a nice ribeye steak, and you say, I'm not going to drink this scotch, or I'm not going to enjoy this ribeye steak, because after I'm done with it, it will be gone. And so think of this game as an experience. And even at $120, I get it, $120 can be expensive for some people, and there's no judgment at all. Everybody has different budgets for your hobbies, and we have to budget what we are comfortable with. But for me, if this was even a one play only game at $120, I personally still think that is worth it. So it's really up to you. Do you enjoy experiential things? Do you like going out to eat? Do you like drinking nice, bottles of alcohol, scotch or whiskey or something? Do you like going to the theater? Do you like going to a live music show? Those are all things that, a ticket to a movie or to a concert now is like $50, $60. You go with your significant other, you're looking at over $100 for the evening for a few hours of entertainment. This game is going to give you way more hours than a concert's worth of entertainment. So again, if you're worried about replay value, just ask yourself why. Ask yourself if you really play your games enough to really worry about replay value. Or if you are only able to buy 1 or 2 games a year, do you want one really great experience, or do you want something like I don't know, Catan or chess or something that you can pay once and play dozens and dozens and dozens of times? So that's kind of up to you. To me, I think the experience of playing this one time is worth the cost, but I think there is a little bit of replay value to revisit the game again. The second question I was asked, do you need the minis or additional add-ons? Okay, I'm the last person to ask if you need minis, because I will always say no. I can't think of a single game, maybe Kingdom Death Monster because of the positioning, but there are very, very few games in which I think the minis are worth the extra cost, worth the extra space, worth anything really. I would greatly prefer it if this game had no minis at all. I would want everything to be represented by really cool standees with art that actually matched the game. Because even the minis, even if they're well painted, they still really stick out like a sore thumb in the game world because they don't really match the look of the game. So I would say no, you do not need to spend the extra money on the minis. If you get the minis, do you want to pay the extra money for the sun drop? Maybe. It just depends on how much extra funds you have to spend on your hobby. I don't think the extra cost is worth it. I am enjoying the game just fine with unpainted minis. Do you need the monsters? Again, I don't think so. You're going to have some tokens that come in the box that you're going to be able to use for those minis, and for me, it's just fine. And I would not recommend anybody buying the minis. I would not recommend, really, even though I'm loving the game, it's one of my favorite games I've played this year by far. I'm not backing any of the other expansions. All I care about is this base box and the stretch goals, and I'm going to have plenty of Etherfields with that base pledge. And I think realistically most people will, unless of course this is like your one game for the year, and then maybe you want to go buy everything so you can have a longer experience. 3, the trial and error issue and the death spiral. So there is, especially with playing one player, and I am going to play through everything in this game completely solo. There is, and there has been, a little more trial and error than I would like. And I think that would be lessened with more players because you could spread out and search more things in a shorter period of time. With one player, it is pretty slow. You have to go space by space and search. Okay, that wasn't what I was looking for. Next space, search. Okay, that wasn't what I was looking for. Then you might run out of time in your game and have to reset that dream, but then you know exactly where you need to go. So that is a minor issue. It's not a game breaker though. And to tell you the truth, one thing that I have done is if that happens to me, I take the negative results of failing the dream, but then I just go back a couple steps and complete the dream and then take the positive results. So instead of playing through the whole thing again to overcome the trial and error issues, I just end up taking both negative and positive results for that dream. And since I'm only playing solo, I'm not hurting anybody with that, and that is fine with me. The death spiral, when you do lose, it does seem like some pretty horrendous things happen to you, happen to your character and the game. That is true. There are ways to get rid of those negative things. pretty early in the game, you do come across a pretty easy way to get rid of flaws from your deck. We'll go over that in detail question 6. And I have heard there are other ways to get rid of other negative things, other ways to get rid of. I have a couple really killer fate cards in my deck right now. One of them in particular that if it comes out onto the board, I do a reset. I do an awakening, and I pretty much start the game over from my last save point. I have heard there is a way to eventually take care of that. So there is a little bit of a death spiral. You know, it just kind of depends on how serious you want to take that or not. But from what I can tell, there are ways to take care of that eventually. Question number 4, and this is I'm going to answer without spoiling. Do the different dreams contribute to an overall narrative, or are they many self-contained stories? There is an overall narrative, but I still don't really know what it is, but I am piecing together things from the dreams. However, each little dream does have enough self-contained narrative to where I think you could have friends drop in and out and still have fun with the game. There are also character-based narratives, and we'll go over a couple of those in a little more detail during question 6, that you also have to piece together. And so if you have people dropping in and out of the game, they may want to control the same character each time. I'm kind of swapping back and forth between two characters, trying to piece together their story, while also I believe I'm learning clues about what is going on in the overall narrative, and there does seem to be a cohesive narrative drive through the entire game. Question number 5, did I cut my board? No, I did not cut it yet. However, it has been out in the garage in the cold and damp for a week, and it's all warped now. That's fine, I don't care. This game, for me, is a game without a board, and that's really how it should have been. There's no reason for a board in this game. All the board has are places to put your decks of cards. I have not had a single issue playing this game without a board at all. So that is it. Number 6, this is where we're going to go into some spoilers. Some people have brought up the concern that the slumbers are boring or repetitive, or the overall game loop is too grindy. And for me, it's not. And I'm going to go into some details with some early game spoilers to show why it's not for me. And maybe for you, you might hate the overall loop of this game, but for me, I am enjoying it, and hopefully I can show you why. So spoilers coming up, and for those of you who are going to stick around, we'll see you in a minute. All right, welcome to the spoiler portion of this video on Etherfields, where we are going to talk about the overall loop of the game and the slumber situation. So the overall loop of the game does find the players moving through this dreamland map that is going to grow. It starts with only 2 areas to explore. I have unlocked 2 more, and it will grow to about this size, I believe is the biggest size that you can get. What you are basically trying to do is you want to eventually pick up enough keys to go through a dream gate. And the dream gates are going to be located in a certain area, suburbia, the metropolis, profundum, or pandemonium. And each one of those districts has a green space. And that is where the dream gates are going to be located. So for instance, if I wanted to do this dream here, a ship discovered in the basement, I would have to go to Pandemonium. I would have to get 2 keys, and then I would have to go to this space here in order to go into that dream. And the way you get keys is you are going to be moving around these spaces, following the arrows, doing particular loops, trying to pass through these spaces that have a key symbol on them. Each space is going to have either a slumber, a fate card, a combination of both of those, or or a key symbol. Every time you pass through one of those key symbols, you are going to get a key, a regular key, and then you have to keep moving on, and you might have to do this circuit a couple times in order to get enough keys to unlock that particular dream gate that you want to go through. Now, as you're going through these spaces, one of the more common things you're going to come up against are your fate cards. So the fate cards, you start with a certain number at the beginning of the game. Then as you progress through dreams, sometimes winning, sometimes losing, you're going to be adding in additional fate cards. And these are going to get shuffled up. So sometimes these fate cards are just a little, just kind of like a little one-off encounter or a little tiny adventure type thing. Sometimes they are going to affect your slumber spaces. So your slumber map is a map that is also out while you are exploring the dreamland, the overworld. And your slumber, you're going to have your characters in the slumber, and you're going to have your character party marker on the dreamland. And sometimes this slumber map is going to grow, and it might be like this. This isn't actually, let's say it's like so like A2 might be here. So you might add that card there. And you're going to have these quirk spots. And some of these cards, these fate cards, are going to go out on your quirk spot, and they're going to usually make the game more challenging. And you're going to have super powerful enemies coming out pretty early in the game. This is that one card I was mentioning earlier. When this comes out in a slumber, I just do a save and reset and try to go through the game and without him appearing. However, I also just unlocked this card. This card adds experience points to certain spots. So I didn't even notice this, but as you are setting up your slumber card, your slumber map, this little icon here, I thought it was just graphics, but nope. Eventually that means something. So now if this winter card comes up while I'm exploring the overland, it's a really good opportunity to get experience, because I place an experience token in every single one of those spaces. And then as I move through the slumber map, as I'm having my slumber encounters, which are the things that a lot of people, or not a lot, but some people think are repetitive, well, I can spend 6 of this resource to pick up these experience tokens. And experience is pretty hard to come by in the game. So I have now discovered a really great way to get experience in the game. So now I have something else to do while I am moving around the overland map, while I am having these encounters. Another thing is that I have unlocked this blue door, or maybe this was this wasn't unlocked. Now, in my review for the game, I said that certain colors, I think, mean certain things. And I think the color blue is an overall good color. Whenever your characters start on the map, they start in a blue space. You get these blue crystals that are good for your characters. And then there's this blue door. We need to go in there sometime. Dreamers may spend 1 key and 6 experience. That is a lot of XP to be spending on that particular card. The most I've ever had is 3 of these tokens. So it's going to take a while to get there. But these 2 cards in conjunction with each other are things that I need. I want to go through the overland map and try to get this combination out so I can find out what is going on in this blue door. So that is one thing that we can think about, or I can think about as I'm playing, as I'm doing the overland map. Another thing is when I said that I'm bouncing back and forth between 2 characters. The reason I'm doing that is because this first character I was playing, the free spirit, I did really poorly on the first couple of dreams, and she got saddled with 3 flaw cards. And these flaw cards are cards that go into your deck and just make the game harder, because you're going to be drawing those sometimes on a turn, and then you're not going to be able to do certain things because you're going to be drawing those bad cards. They do bad things to you, as well as prevent you from getting other resources. However, now I have unlocked a space in the dream world, the overworld, where I can pass through there to remove a flaw card from my deck. So the next time I play, I'm going to pack up the specialist. I'm going to put him away, and I'm going to take out the free spirit and play with her so I can get rid of her flaw cards. Additionally, at the beginning of the game, when one of the first things you unlock are these first memories. And these are kind of telling you how to progress your character's story. Well, the free spirit, her first memory, revolves around this thing called the mystery path. She wants to resolve the second step of the mystery path. Well, what is the mystery path? Well, you don't know at the beginning of the game, but now I know what it is. While you're playing the game, you're going to have these turn cards that come out, and these are going to dictate how many turns you get to solve a certain dream or a certain slumber. When you do it, you're going to get these loot rewards down here, and if you solve the dream or you solve the slumber, it's usually the slumber, or it's usually like an enemy you fight. Well, then if you do that while this loot is out, you get what it says. So one of these loot rewards is encountering that mystery path. So the team resolves the 34M secret mystery path with the lowest number, or gains 1 key. So the specialist was the first one to do that. So he went through the number 1 mystery path. So the next one is going to be the second mystery path. And so I want to play again with my free spirit. I want her to be the one traveling around the overworld for a while in order to hopefully get this card to come out at the right time so I can progress her story. So that is another thing that I can think about while doing what some people have called the grind of this game, or the repetitive nature of this game. Okay, that's one extra thing that I can do. Well, you can also get these items. Now, this item here, I can discard it to gain 1 key, or I can return it to the market, which means I would need to buy it again to get 3 keys. Well, this item cannot actually be used on the overworld. It can only be used in a slumber or a dream. So if I wanted to go from 1 dream, let's say this dream cost me 2, and I got out, I performed really well through the dream. I got out with good health and good cards, and I wanted to jump into another dream quickly without having to pass through that loop. I could use this card in a dream, or go through just a limited number of slumbers to use this card to give me enough keys to immediately go into another dream. So that's another thing you can think about while doing this main loop part of the game. Sometimes some characters progress by getting their progress cards out. And those are cards that come from your deck that you lock down below. When you do a soft reset of the game, when you do a save and reboot, you lose all of your progress cards. They go back into your deck. Well, I believe that the specialist, the way you progress his story is you want to have 4 green progress cards in your character's progress slots. One of the easiest ways to get your progress cards out is through the slumber encounters, because they're shorter and they aren't as detrimental if you lose. It's just easier to go into a couple quick little slumbers and get those out. So if I want to progress his story, what I might want to do during the core loop section of the game, outside of the main dream, the dream gates, is just do some easier slumbers, some shorter encounters to try to get 4 of his progress cards out, so that way I could progress his story. Additionally, when you actually get to the slumber encounters, there are a number of really interesting things. So I am not finding them repetitive at all. Maybe I'm 5 minutes away from them becoming really repetitive, but I doubt that. In one of the dreams, you face off against some dogs, and you give the dogs a bone, you tame them, but then you add a dog card to your slumber deck. And so the next time the dogs come out, you may have to fight them. However, if you do a certain thing, you learn about a way to tame the dogs again. Good boy. And so when you face off against the dogs in the slumber encounters, you will be able to have this card, because this is a note card you keep in your storage, so you can always refer to it. Well, what you can do is you can do this contact action, and then you can turn those bad dogs into friendly dogs. And then the bad dogs get removed from your slumber deck, and you throw in these friendly dogs. And then when you come to these guys in a slumber, well, then you get to play a little dexterity mini game. You take a little token, and you nominate a space, and you throw your token like you're throwing the dogs a ball. And if it lands on that space, well, then you get some good things happen to you. So one of the earlier NPC encounters you come across in the game adds a little dexterity mini game to Etherfields. Okay, how cool is that? Another one of the really cool encounters is this Nightmare Janitor. So he follows you back from a dream, and it was really cool the way this guy enters your world. And this becomes a little spatial puzzle where you have to manipulate him around the board in order to do certain things. And you don't really fight him, but you do a puzzle with him. So I thought that was pretty cool. There are also these 2 cards that I still haven't unlocked. This one, if it comes up and a dreamer has placed 3 progress cards, well, then you get to progress something. This one, if you've placed 4 progress cards, well, you get to progress something. So these might be 2 other things that you want to focus on a game. You may set up the game, not even worry about going into a dream gate, but just saying, okay, I'm going to set up the game. I'm going to play in the dream world. I'm going to go on a couple little circuits around, maybe collecting some items, maybe shopping if you have some experience points or some money or something, and I'm just going to try to progress these 2 cards. Well, then what's going to get added when you progress these 2 cards? I have no idea, but probably more cool stuff. And then you also want to kind of keep track of how many slumber cards are in your slumber deck, because eventually you're going to draw this special slumber card, which is your Delta Phase. The Delta Phase is kind of it's like a softer reset, and you get to do a couple good things. You get to reset you get to cure all of your wounds. You can unseal your cards. You can unflip your progress cards. You can reset a pretty major part of your character. So what you want to do when you're exploring to get keys is you want to keep track of where this card is, and then hopefully plan your circuit to where the Delta Phase comes like pretty close to right before you go into a major dream. So then you can go in being at tip-top shape. So this card adds kind of a mini game element of how you want to be planning your route around the dream world. Additionally, I met this NPC here, he's like a traveling merchant. And if he comes out in one of these slumber encounters, well, then I have another way of buying things without having to use my shopping tickets. So what I'm finding is that even if I'm encountering the same things over and over again, I'm finding that enough new things are being added in at a pretty steady clip that I'm not too worried about that. And two, as I'm traveling around this world, it's kind of like walking through a neighborhood and I'm seeing familiar faces. And so it doesn't really bother me that I might be seeing the same thing again, because to me it's just kind of reinforcing the idea of this being a neighborhood and you're encountering the denizens of that neighborhood. There is a huge number of slumber cards that will eventually get added to your deck as you play through this core campaign. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that gets added to these. So I am not finding the core loop of the game of the slumbers to be repetitive, and I have really no fears that it is going to become repetitive. Because so far, what I have seen so far has been enough for me. They've introduced enough new things, enough new encounters, completely new ways of playing the game. They've added little mini games to try to think about. So I don't think that that is an issue. I'm not saying it's not. For some people, it could be an issue, and that is a perfectly legitimate thought to have. But if people are asking me, are the slumbers repetitive? Is the core loop of the game too grindy? I don't think it is. And I think I have covered everything I wanted to cover in this additional thoughts video now. So let me guys know what you think about Etherfields. If you're still having a good time, I am having an absolutely fantastic time in this game. It is hitting all the right notes for me, and I think it is a pretty damn good game. So all right guys, we'll talk to you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.